So what if I told you that the intelligence you use every day isn't set in stone? That you can actually upgrade the way you think, the way you solve problems, and just navigate your world? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, the idea of cognitive rewiring. For decades, we've kind of been sold this idea that our IQ is pretty much fixed. You get what you get, and that's that. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's a different kind of intelligence? One that's way more important for real life, and one that you can absolutely improve.
So let's just park the whole IQ thing for a minute. Let's focus on something much more useful, something called practical intelligence.
Now, look at the words here. This isn't about solving abstract puzzles. It's all about action. We're talking about adapting when you can't change things, shaping the things you can, and knowing when to select a totally new environment because the old one just isn't working. And here's the kicker. This isn't some gift you're born with. It's a skill set you can learn. Okay, this all sounds great, right? But how does it actually work? Well, it's all grounded in some pretty incredible science about the very wiring of our brains. Let's get into the mechanics of what makes this all possible.
I love this metaphor. We tend to think our brain is like a computer's hardware, fixed, unchanging. But the reality is, it's way more like software. It's constantly running, learning, and it's always ready for an update based on what you feed it.
And here's the scientific name for it: neuroplasticity. It's this amazing ability of the brain to literally rewire itself. Every single time you learn something new or build a new habit, you are physically changing your brain. And this doesn't just happen when you're a kid, it happens your entire life.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If our brains are ready for an update, how do we hit the install button? It's not a passive thing. You actually have to trigger it. And the answer is surprisingly simple, even if it's not always easy.
And boom, there it is. The secret sauce is challenge. It's that moment of struggle, of pushing just a little bit past your comfort zone. When your brain has to really work to figure something out, that's when it says, okay, time to build some new, faster roads. Comfort doesn't rewire your brain. Effort does.
So if we know we need to lean into difficult tasks, how do we do that well? It really comes down to two foundational mental skills. Think of them as the two pillars that hold up all of your practical intelligence.
Pillar number one is cognitive inhibition. I love the phrase mental pause button. It's your ability to stop that automatic gut reaction dead in its tracks. You get a critical email, and instead of firing back instantly, you just stop. That pause is where the magic starts.
And this is the difference it makes in the real world. On the left, you've got that impulsive, knee-jerk reaction. On the right, because of that pause, you get a deliberate, thoughtful, considered response. Practical intelligence lives in that little gap between the two.
Okay, so what do you do once you've hit pause? That brings us to pillar number 2, metacognition. It's a fancy word, but all it means is thinking about your own thinking. It's stepping back and asking, hang on, why is my first instinct to get defensive here? Or is the story I'm telling myself actually true? You become the observer of your own mind.
And really, it all just boils down to this. It's a simple but incredibly powerful two-step process. First, you pause. Then, you think about your thinking. If you can master that, you have the entire foundation for rewiring your brain.
All right, so we've got the science, we've got the foundational pillars. Now for the really fun part. How do we turn all this into actual daily habits that will actively rewire our brains?
It really all comes down to 5 core habits. Each one of these is specifically designed to trigger that neuroplasticity we talked about, using that foundation of pausing and thinking. So let's run through them. First, actively practice the pause. Second, once you've paused, question your first thought. Don't just accept it as fact. Third, and this is a big one, deliberately tackle difficult tasks. Seek them out. Fourth, after you do something hard, take a minute to reflect on how it went, what worked, what didn't. And number 5, commit to learning something genuinely complex. A new language, a musical instrument, give your brain a real workout.
All right, we've covered the why and the how. We know our brains can change. We know that challenge is the key. Now, it's all about shifting from just knowing this stuff to actually doing it.
So let's just lock in the big ideas here. 1, your intelligence isn't fixed. 2, your brain is built to be rewired. That's neuroplasticity. 3, the core skills are mastering the pause and then thinking about your thinking. And finally, remember that challenge isn't the obstacle, it's the path.
And really, this is what it all comes down to. This isn't a one-and-done kind of thing.
It's a practice. It's a choice you make in dozens of little moments every single day to pause, to reflect, and to engage with things that are hard.
So I'll leave you with this question. It doesn't have to be some monumental thing. It could be as simple as finally reading that challenging article, or starting that tricky conversation, or just tackling that one item on your to-do list you've been avoiding. So, what's the one difficult thing you're going to choose to do today to start your own cognitive update?